Welcome to Unstitching ADHD Urban Ed Talks. I'm your host, Dr. Stanley Ekiyor, and today we are thrilled to have Miss Bridgette Wales, a master kindergarten teacher from one of the big 5 urban districts. She will share practical examples of creating an inclusive classroom environment that caters to different learning styles, especially for students with ADHD. Let's dive in. Ms. Wales, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Hello, Dr. Ekiyor, and thank you so much for having me here.
Please, can you tell us a little bit about your background and experience?
My background, I'd just like to say that I am a Rochester native, and I've been educated in city elementary schools and high schools. And I went to SUNY schools right here, Geneseo, and graduated, and came back into the school system by teaching in 2001. And I've taught kindergarten for about 6 years, and I've taught third, first, fourth in the district. I've also written curriculum with Dr. Goodwin and Dr. Swartz at the Rochester Teachers Center from K to 2, titled Self, Family, and Community. And there are books, if you ever wanted to go to RTC to get these books and lessons that you can teach your class and be culturally responsive.
Can you tell us what the acronym RTC stands for? For those who
the
don't know.
RTC, we have our Rochester Teacher Centers throughout New York State. So I think there are over 200 teacher centers in New York State, but ours is very special. I know because it's run by Dr. Goodwin, who's the director of it, and Yolanda Montalvo, she runs the center with Dr. Goodwin.
Thank you for that explanation. Why teaching? What's the story behind you deciding that this is what I want to do? Or was it by accident?
There was no accident at all. And sorry, I got a little choked up when I thought about it. And I've been thinking about it. It started when I was 17. And I decided before I went to college that I would get my teaching degree. I was asked by people, why would you want to do that? And I kind of started doubting. But at 17, graduating from East High School, had a really great experiences with the Ebony Culture Club and teachers who taught me to, look expansively, but also give back to your communities in some way. And so when I went to college, I went to Geneseo, but it didn't work out because I didn't feel like they were educating me to teach in an urban setting where I was going to go back to. And I didn't graduate with my teaching degree until I was about 29. And so I did go back to teaching because I had gotten money from the AmeriCorps. I was an AmeriCorps volunteer. My son was about 1 year old. And so I used that money to go back to graduate school and to continue my dream of becoming a teacher. And I did in 2001. I was hired by the district, and Edward Tozick was my principal at school number 15, Children's School of Rochester. And that was my first big teaching experience. And it was the most wonderful way to be able to come into teaching.
Thank you for sharing that. That's interesting. I always like the stories because they are very motivational. It's always good to show why we do what we do. Now, that leads us to my next question. It's always a challenge, I'm told, from experience, working with this age of kids and having them in a classroom with kids diagnosed with ADHD. How are you able to support this kid in such a masterful way?
The biggest thing for teaching right now is you have to have a very good foundation and structure. The structure has to be, it does not change, it will not change from day to day, so that kids have that sense of safety. Like, I know this is going to happen now, this is what's going to happen next, this is how I'm going to get up, this is how I'm going to come to the carpet, This is how I'm going to talk to the teacher. This is how I'm going to talk to people who come into the room. This is how we're going to interact with each other. So it takes a lot of structure and a lot of conversations with kids, like with my kindergartners, which I love about our school. It's a expeditionary learning school, and we have a very solid 30 minutes of, we call it crew time. So crew is really important for building your classroom family, so we sit in crew. And even when I didn't have crew at another school, I would call it emoji circle. And so we'd have emoji circle, and that was really important to building that class family again and being able to have those conversations with kids no matter what grade they're in, kindergarten, fourth grade. But the stability of having a schedule, I think, is really, really key.
Talking about your structure,
Mhm.
you're not an island in the building, you have different variables. What kind
Mhm.
of support system do you think you've been able to tap into in your building or in your school that has helped you to support your students?
In our school, and I think this is at all EL schools, you have a set of tenants that everyone follows, that has, and it's about the heart. It's about how do you show up? How do you persevere? When things get hard, you don't give up. We're there to care. And it's, these words aren't just words. Everyone hears them and everyone practices, through the work I think that students are doing. Is not perfect, but everyone's speaking the same language is what I'm saying throughout the whole school. We have Cooper check, when we're in the hallway. So that helps because I'm not the only one that's got, a Cooper check for my kid. You can hear it throughout the building. So it's something that comes from higher up, that support from my principal, the support from the vice principals. They're all, saying the same thing. They're on the same page in terms of how are we going to conduct ourselves as a whole school, and how are we going to speak to each other, and how are we going to be in the same space. So, and I think the tenets of EL really help with that a lot. It supports it with what I'm doing.
I hear you describe a village, right?
Exactly.
Um, yeah, thank you. And
Exactly. It's
that's
unity.
key. Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
unity throughout the
Yeah,
building. I feel safe because I know that if I'm putting my finger up, or if I'm, in the hallway, and it's like, we're, I would expect the same thing from everyone, and every teacher does expect that. And I can talk to kids in the hallway like that aren't in my grade. Where are you supposed to be? And they're like, they know, oh, I'm just getting the class. So it is a village.
I'm happy to
Mhm.
hear that. Now, let's talk about your students. How are you able to meet the need of the diverse learning styles of students you have in your classroom, especially those with ADHD?
It takes time to learn about each child because they show up differently at the beginning of the year than to the middle and the end. So I have to get to know each one. And it takes about 2 or 3 months to really, through sitting next to them, or those conversations in crew time or Moja Circle, conversations with parents, having lunch with them. But it takes time to build a relationship with each child so that you can understand and hope to understand, like, it's changed towards the end of the year, but to hope to understand, who each child is and what they need, because it's different. Some kids, they really just want to come in and get to work. Some kids are there to, whatever they want to do. I'm ready to draw. I'm ready to talk to my friends. So, but to get to know each child, to understand, like, what do they need? And those kids who have ADHD, they show up really fast. So, and that's sometimes it's easier to see with the activity, but you see it in other ways too, educationally.
So, correct me if I'm wrong.
Hmm.
What you do is understanding their style of learning. First of all, you build the community, try to meet the kids where they are at, then now translate that to how you deliver instruction. Now, what is the one thing that you think you have seen with kids with ADHD that you normally tap into to help them really function in the classroom?
So they want to be part of the group. They want to be part of the group. They don't want to be separate. So as much as you can like bring them into the group and it's like, okay, it's your turn next, and letting them know like you're coming up next so they can get themselves together to know, hey, it's my turn. Making sure that when they're in the small group, it's like, do you need to get up and move and go and get a drink of water and come right back? But letting them know that, okay, we need to make sure that we take some deep breaths, but also letting them know that they are part of this learning environment. I have a student right now who has a space on the carpet away from the other kids when we're doing whole group learning because I know that he can't be in the middle of the group or everybody will be getting karate chopped. And he doesn't mean to because he needs that space and he needs that time to just like move. I think giving kids a space to be where they are in order to be in that whole group time because they do because they're listening. I find that those my ADHD kids, they're very bright, they want to learn, but they need that space and time for you to like understand, you know what, I got to get myself together in this chair. And they're not trying to be mean. They're not trying to like hurt your feelings. They really, just need time and space to like get it together because they do want to learn and they are learning. I have kids that are, you know, some of my brightest kids in my class, and to accept the work that they're giving as the work, where they are in that moment. I had to break crayons all the way down to like little nubs so that, they can get that pincer grip. And especially one of my ADHD kids, I found that I just had to keep breaking. And he's writing and wants to write and always wanted to write, but he just hadn't had a time to get that grip. So, yeah, giving just learning who the kids are and what their frustration levels too are.
So that brings me to my next question, which is about parents. How do you work with parents, right, to support kids with ADHD? What's the trick?
I don't think there's a trick. I mean, you just have to talk to parents. I've had kids, I've watched like, whoa. And I've taught in the same school where my son went to school. And I'd be walking down the hallway and my son I know talked a lot, moved a lot, and he was ADHD kid. And I had a teacher walk past me and go, Swells, can you talk to Jonah when you get a chance? And I'd have to go in and, hey, so they knew. So it was that relationship. I'd rather have that conversation. It was like to the point. It wasn't like your kid is bad. So letting, especially our Black parents know going into next year, going into first grade, leaving my classroom, I have a way of talking to parents where I know I want them to hear me, but I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just letting you know this is what I'm seeing. This is what I notice.
Mhm.
Do you, and I ask them, what are you noticing at home? How do you work with them? Like what works when, they're jumping off the couch like 25 times and they're going to hurt themselves. What do you do? So I ask parents, what do they do? Because then that starts the conversation of maybe this is something that you're going to have to really look at in the future because when this child goes to the next classroom, what things do you have in place to let the teacher know this is what I've been doing at home? Because they're all not going to have the same, they've got this script that they got to do, they've got this curriculum that they got to teach, and this they feel like they have to teach like that and they leave the children out. So I don't want their child to get lost because we have brilliant children in our district, really brilliant. And because of what a child is not sitting still and being quiet doesn't mean that they don't deserve an education. And I think that's what happens so much to our kids is they're treated like they are doing it on purpose. So talking to parents and letting them know, please make sure that you have a plan. What are you going to do?
You touched on the home, asking them what's going on at home, getting yourself in sync. Now,
Mhm.
from your conversation with parents, do you think most of our parents are educated about what ADHD is?
I don't think so because I wasn't. And I was a teacher and a mom of son, and really literally not until years later did I really understand, because he would say, Mom, sometimes I couldn't sleep at nighttime because my head would be racing. So that he wasn't telling me. So that made it hard for me to help him. So, no, I think parents, it takes time, it takes reading, because it's really, there are pros to it and there are cons to it. And those, a child isn't, like I said, just bad. Oh, he's just bad. That's what you hear a lot of. So, no, I don't think so.
Okay. So that brings me to training from your experience. I know you're doing such a great work in your classroom. Have you ever been trained
No.
by your district on ADHD specific characteristics or symptoms and strategies that will support kids like that?
I wish that we had, because that's what we're seeing in our classrooms so much of. I have one very severe case right now, and a couple more, two or three more, boys and girls, that could really do well with some ADHD counseling, and parents too, because it's a family. It's not just the kid. The kid is just a part of a family, not just, but is a part of a family.
Can you share a success story of a student with ADHD in your class? I know most times they are just little nuggets, but it's something that you have seen that motivates you to do what you do and makes you believe, they belong in your class. So yes, Miss Wells, can you tell us a success story of a student with ADHD in your class?
Yes. So I was teaching kindergarten a few years back, and a variety of different kids. And this one little boy stood out. He was very, very anxious. He never wanted, he would cry when his mom left. He would try to stick to me. If he didn't want to make friends, it was hard for him to make friends. And I just remember, just mom would always ask questions, which was really great. What do you think? I'm thinking of taking to the doctors. I want him to have friends. So she really was just interested in making sure that he had a good kindergarten experience, because in preschool he'd had a hard experience. And she said that he would like trash his preschool. She said it was just a mess. And so he came in with the same behaviors. He wasn't really growing with the classroom. And so mom finally, she said, with the conversations between me, her pediatrician, and her family, she had gotten him. I don't know if it was Ritalin, I don't know what it was. And it wasn't just that, it was making sure that it was the right thing, because she didn't want to do it in preschool. He was too young.
Mhm.
It's not always medicine. It was also, what did this child need? It's different from every child. It's not, and it wasn't something that I was lightly like, yeah, you should take him to the pediatrician. It was like, he needs something extra. And it really wasn't that much. And he began, after he started taking meds a little bit, he was able to focus. He was able to join in the classroom. He was able to make friends. He was like stuck to me on the playground one time. And I called another little kid over. I was like, hey, do you know so and so? And the kid's like, no. And I'm like, why don't you guys go play? And off they went. That's what I mean. He like got unstuck from me and played, and just a part of the classroom. He was a part of the group. And I think that if anything I would take away is like, the group is really important. Family is really important. When you have that, that's why we can talk to each other, and I can move my class and we can be together and they can learn, because they feel safe, because they're within, a group of not just students, but their family.
Thank you so much. That's a great one. Most times we talk about med and people are skeptical about it, but that collaboration,
Mm.
working with all stakeholders and making sure the kid is getting what is right, especially the dosage, and everybody's monitoring to make sure the right thing is happening, can make a great difference to kids that truly need it. Yes, so as we wrap up, is there anything you would want to say to most teachers out there that are still wondering, that are still asking questions, that just believe that these kids don't belong in that environment. They need to be taken to special classes. Is there
Oh,
any advice you have to share with?
yeah, like one of the biggest things, and I said it earlier, is talk to your kids. Look at your kids. Look at them. And here's, I think, for our district, after writing culturally responsive curriculum and taking it to different classrooms, one of the things that I noticed and I saw was that people many times they might have been having a hard time with their kids, but I noticed that they didn't like their kids. So if you don't like your kids, you won't be able to move your children because you don't have high expectations of them that they are actually children and that they need your help and that you're there to be of service to them. So I think liking my kids and wanting to get to know them really helps that to move the needle a little bit. And talking to their parents is really important. So, like kids, like what you're doing, like who's sitting in front of you, get to know them.
Thank you for sharing your insight, your experience, and for all you do. I'm in awe anytime I walk by your classroom, I see you and your students. It's just a wonderful experience. I wish everybody will have the opportunity to see what you do. Thank you so much. And I hope if we need to invite you again, you'll be able to come and join us and share your experiences with us.
I would like that very much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Wells, and for sharing your practical insights into creating inclusive classrooms for students with ADHD. To our listeners, we hope you found today's discussion valuable. Stay tuned for more on Unstitching Urban Ed Talk. Until next time, thank you and have a blessed day.